Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Out of Spec podcast. I'm your host, Jordan, joined by Kyle, who has recently been in Germany checking out yet another vehicle on the PPE platform, Premium Platform Electric, which is kind of a joint situation between Audi and Porsche. I was there a while back looking at the Q6 E-Tron. Of course, Kyle spent quite a bit of time with the Macan EV, which is also on that platform. Today, we are focused on the A6 e-tron slash S6 e-tron, basically the newer kind of spicy Audi, but not the SUV version. And I think that's pretty cool, but we're not really getting the wagon version in the US, which is a huge disappointment to most of us enthusiasts over here on this side of the water. But we have a lot of Euro viewers as well, so we're not going to just ignore it altogether. But we just might have to go pop over there and drive your cars a bit more often than we would like. Either way, we have a lot to dive in here with specs, everything we know about it, so we'll jump right in.
This episode is made possible by the support we get from Fort Collins Kia. If you are in the market for any electric Kia, not only do they never add market adjustments, they will deliver your car to you anywhere in the 48 contiguous states for out-of-spec viewers. More information in the link in the show notes.
Okay, so jumping into the A6 slash S6, there's basically a rear-wheel drive version, and then, of course, Quattro, Audi's infamous all-wheel drive setup, and then the S6, which is the sporty version that's following typical Audi nomenclature with the A models and the S models for the sedans. Kyle, where do you want to start with everything?
Well, I think before we even get into the car, can I just comment on Audi's naming stuff? Because they just launched the new A5, which is the A4. So if for those who haven't been closely following Audi, all of the even numbers, so A4, A6, A8, eventually, those will all be electric. And then all of the odd numbers will be combustion and plug-in hybrid and mild hybrid and whatever. And to me, just on the face of it, I think Audi's pretty confused as to which way to go. I got to have a long conversation with the CEO of Audi, Gernot Dörner. I don't know how to say his name that great, but cool dude, but just seems very confused on the direction as to which way Audi needs to go from my perspective. And so A6 e-tron, both Sportback and Avant, both body styles with 3 powertrains that we know of at launch, is the newest unveil from Audi. And so I went over there and filmed a full tour of this car in the studio, which this podcast will go up a little bit before the Out of Spec Reviews video, but essentially that will be on Out of Spec Reviews the day this one goes live, the day the car is unveiled. And it's the new electric A6. And the A6 has always been the quintessential Audi. It is the car that needs to be a bit unassuming, just pretty high quality, a nice refined car, but not ultra sporty, not ultra luxury, just right down the middle, just doing Audi business. It is the business class sedan, competes squarely against the BMW i5 and the Mercedes EQE in this sense. And you know what? I think just right off the face of it, if you parked this next to an i5 or Mercedes EQE, in my eyes, I haven't driven it yet. I've just filmed it in a studio, but in my eyes, this is the clear choice I would make to drive this one. And there's a lot of reasons as to why. Fast charging, very efficient claims. Software seems really good, actually. I'm kind of excited about the software, which is the first time I've said that about a Volkswagen product in a long time. And I know it's an Audi, but it's part of the group. And, you know, Jordan, the photos, we're filming this a couple days before it gets posted. The photos were just leaked online, and just like any new car, everyone thinks it's ugly. I actually think it looks pretty good. I'm kind of excited about it. You've now seen the photos of the Sportback and the Avant. From a design perspective, what do you think?
I like it more than I expected to. I think at first glance, I was like, ooh, I don't know. But then I kept looking at it, and I'm genuinely fine with it. And I can see why some people would or wouldn't like it. The grille thing is polarizing. And of course, Audi's very happy with their grille, I guess. Like, they intentionally have a grille on their EVs, even though there's no need for a grille. It's just blocked out, but still kind of that Audi design, because they've locked themselves into this design ethos. Kind of the same with door handles. I mean, they were talking about this with the Q6 e-tron as well. Just like, oh, we have all these things. We know other EVs are getting rid of grills or doing something different up there. Other EVs are doing unique things with door handles, but Audi feels like that's their part of their ethos, and so they can't break away from it. Some people don't like that. Taycan and the Audi e-tron GT, same platform, but the e-tron just has the weird fake grille thing. It doesn't really bother me. And of course, the Avant, or wagon, as you could call it, looks phenomenal, I think. But even the Sportback is fine. And Sportbacks are pretty useful. I mean, you have the whole rear lifting up, kind of like a Model S, like many other cars that we enjoy. And I'm curious to drive it as well. Like you said, this platform is very intriguing and has a lot of good things on paper, but also, like you said, the confusion of where Audi's situation is in the EV world is like, why do they have so many platforms? I mean, they have 4, maybe coming up a 5th one, which seems kind of scattered all over the place. So on one hand, it's pretty great that you would pick this and those 3 cars that you mentioned, but what do you think is going to happen with their other platforms? And is this the clear future platform? Or do you just not know?
That's a whole nother podcast that we have to do that one for sure, because I think Audi is in trouble. From the outside looking in again, even the Germans that I know that like work for Volkswagen Group are like, what is Audi up to? And that's what I went there to go figure out. I have a little bit better of idea of their strategy. I sat through like a 2-hour presentation on where Audi is going into the future, and we should make a podcast on that, because it's not all bad. I don't want to paint an all bad picture here. It actually could work out really well for them, but of course, up until PPE with Q6 e-tron, things have been looking great, because Q4 e-tron was kind of a flop. Q8 e-tron is old, and there was nothing really super competitive in the electric space. E-tron GT is just expensive and has huge depreciation. So anyway, on the topic of A6 e-tron, this PPE clearly is a platform that's going to stick around for a while. You went over with them like once or twice, and you've done Q6 e-tron. You've driven that and SQ6 e-tron.
Right.
And we already made videos on that car. This is very similar. It's basically, from a spec standpoint, copy paste Q6 e-tron, make it a sedan. Now, are sedans in, and I shouldn't really say it's not totally a sedan, because it's like a Model S style liftback, or they call it a Sportback, which I think is pretty cool. Actually, in the full out of spec reviews video, I compared the trunk space of both, and it's not too dissimilar. The one thing is the rear seat room in the A6 isn't so great compared to the Avant. But let's go through the specs first, Jordan. We know the US market specifications, which is what we're going to gear this podcast towards. And there's going to be 3 drivetrains. And I also just want to note the US on sale date will be significantly later than the Euro cars. So the Euro cars, you can, I think, take delivery as soon as next month, as soon as September 2024. At least you're able to order them. Series production will start then. But for the US, it's not going to be till early to mid 2025. I don't want to say a year from now, but like 10 months from now.
Right.
So we're a ways away for our market. But so can you walk everyone through the 3 main models in terms of power and 0 to 60 and top speed?
Yeah, so we have the rear-wheel drive version, which will be, the cheapest, 270 kilowatts just from the rear axle. That's about 362 horsepower. That's just over 5 seconds 0 to 60.
So is that good? What do we think? I just interrupted you. I'm sorry.
Well, it's all right. No, top speed is 130. So I mean, that's going to feel slow in the Autobahn, but this is a US spec, so like, who cares? No one's going to hit that anyways. Same top speed as the VinFast, I guess, pretty close. But anyway, the 0 to 60 in 5 point something seconds, I think is fine, but I don't know. Where people are so obsessed with chasing numbers, but it's really just like, for me, it's like, how does it drive? Like, for the same reason I would take a base Taycan over a Model S Plaid, is like, I just like the way that feels around corners and other situations and how it looks. Like, there's so much more to life than 0 to 60, but everyone seems to care about drag racing. So I guess you can drag race this and make a decision for yourself. But that's the base model, rear wheel drive, which will still be great. And I think
I
that's
think
fine.
it'll be fine. My guess is they're going to start for rear drive like high 60,000 US, low 70s. Pricing hasn't been announced, but I think it's going to be right below Model S. Actually, I think they're going to really go after that. Now, it's not going to get the tax credit. It's not built in our market or anything like that. But I think Audi could actually do a pretty aggressive lease on this car, and it could have the opportunity to sell well. Certainly, I think Q6 is going to outsell A6 all day, every day. We even see that now. I mean, how many people buy Q7s or Q5s in comparison to Audi A6s? I never see A6s on the road. Like, this is just not going to be a huge volume car. But if you're going to be doing a lot of long distance trips EV, that rear drive is going to give you, I think, over 700 and something kilometers WLTP. Like, it's a really long, 750 kilometer WLTP, which is huge range. Now, of course, EPA is going to be a lot less than that. We don't get the digital mirrors. We may not even get the aero wheels in our market, but time will tell.
Yep, and we don't have EPA numbers yet, in case anyone's asking. But they're quoting a coefficient of drag of like 0.21, so it should be a very good slippery car. And they made slippery in a better looking fashion than Mercedes did with the EQE, which is the direct competitor. So
even if people don't like this car, I think everyone can agree it looks better than the EQE.
I agree. All they had to do was beat that in terms of looks, and they did it. So good job, Audi. As far as battery, I guess they have the same battery across all drivetrains, right? 100 kilowatt hour, which is 94.4 usable.
So what's weird is our market's 94.4, but it's 94.9 in Europe. And I think it's just a different measurement strategy, but it's the same battery that's going in Macan. It's the same battery that's going in Q6, A6, and future PPE cars as well.
So the range should really rock. Like, I'm excited to try this one out. And like Volkswagen said, when I went to the ID7 launch, it was like, you know what? The slice of pie of sedans in the US is very small, but they still wanted a piece of that slice. So I think they said like 11%.
Except they canceled that car.
Well, yeah. So that's what they said when they first. But when I went over there for the global launch, they were like, "We're bringing it to the U.S. We want a slice of that 11%." And they're like, "I'm just kidding." So
I shouldn't say canceled. It's delayed, but I think it's canceled.
Well, I mean, will this ever come? Who knows? But
I mean, what if A6 never comes?
Right.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. We're reporting on it anyways, I guess. And then lighting is, even though we don't get some of the crazy fancy lighting yet, I mean, these cars will be available, right? So if the software update comes, then that'll work.
Negative. I did the interview. You haven't seen the video yet. I talked to the head of lighting at Audi, and I did like a 20-minute segment. Basically, watch my A6 E-Tron video, not for the A6, just for the guy who does the lighting at Audi, who's the most important man at Audi, because Audi is really a company that its core competency is lighting. They don't really do anything else except lights.
The software is getting better, like you said, but lighting is like impressive over there.
Well, that's just what they do. I mean, everything else is shared platform with this company, that company inside the group. Cariad does the software. Audi does lights. And this is where I'm worried about Audi's future. But they build a really good total package. Don't get me wrong. I'm just messing with them because it's funny. But the dude, I think his name was Michael, who did the lighting. I talked to him about the US getting matrix functionality. And he said, even though it might become legal, it's a different set of regulations than the Euro lighting matrix, which means they need a physically different headlight part, and it probably won't come until the A6 gets a facelift.
So wait for the facelift.
So we'll get great lights, but we just won't get all the fun functionality. Also, there's so many cool things that the lights do on this, Jordan. There's OLED in the taillights, and like when you approach the car, it will like light them up to say like, hey, you're approaching a car. And if you like emergency brake or put your hazards on, they actually have like triangles that can be simulated, and they have this like digital moving tail light, all this stuff. We don't get any of that. It's not legal.
Yep. Yeah, I saw all that in the Q6 e-tron. It was really impressive and really cool. There was a couple things we can get, like like semi customizable things, but those like are static. They can't change while driving. That's part of the regulation. That would be a whole other interesting topic to dive into at some point, but it is really frustrating. I mean, United Nations, whatever. This doesn't feel very united right now because of the vehicles. But anyways, we digress. Let me get back to we covered rear wheel drive.
Yes.
Okay. Well, first of all, let us know in the comments if you think over 5 seconds is slow and unacceptable. Anyways, Quattro.
No, our viewers, they're all nerds who want efficiency. They're going to love the rear wheel drive.
Right. They're like, why'd you make it that fast? Give me something with 120 kilowatts. But the Quattro, I think, will sell pretty well. I mean, in the US, everyone feels like they need all-wheel drive. They're like, what if I drive in the snow? Even if you're in Texas, people are like, give me the all-wheel drive version in case I take this car to Colorado, which fine, that's fine. So that's 315 kilowatts. Is that split between the two motors evenly, roughly?
It is very close to a 50-50. I think only in the S6 do they give it a rear bias.
Right. Okay. So that'll accelerate you to 60 in 4.3 seconds, which feels plenty adequate. Same top speed though, 130. And everything else is same. Pick one of 16 shades of gray. Then we get the S6 E-Tron, which will be, I think, the interesting spicy one. 370 kilowatts, which is almost 500 horsepower nominal. But then there's launch control, which boosts it to 405 kilowatts, almost 550 horsepower. And that says 3.7 seconds to 60 with launch control, which is of course quick, but also still relatively slow compared to some of the competition. But whatever, it's a nice German place to be. I'm not going to argue with that.
Dude, it's going to be $100,000. Okay, so but here's the thing. This is what confuses me. So Macan is built on the same platform as this car, right?
Right.
And I just came across the Euro pricing for this car. Let me just take a look to see if I can find it. It was like 99,500 euros for the Audi S6 and 75,000 euros for the A6 Sportback E-Tron Performance, which the naming is different for their cars than ours.
Yeah.
So I think that's the Quattro, not the S6. But 75, or let's just say 100,000 euros, which is what, 110,000 US?
Something like that. Yeah, they're close, but not quite.
100 euro to USD is 108,000 US. That's a Macan Turbo.
Ooh, why would you pick this over a Macan Turbo?
But that's what's confusing to me, because Macan Turbo gives you the motors that are solid mounted, that are rotated 180 degrees with the bigger inverter, and that's like, so basically what I think is going to happen, which is actually not unusual for German cars, is it's going to be priced less in our market. It has to be, because you can't price this up what a Macan Turbo is and expect people to go for an Audi sedan over a Porsche SUV with more performance for the same money.
Yeah, I don't see that working. So that'll be interesting. And of course, we'll, when this comes to the US, if it does, watch this and ID7 not even come until they're facelifted.
See, that would be so disappointing. We went through this with ID7 where we filmed the car. We loved the car. ID7's awesome, by the way.
It is. Yes.
So good, so comfortable. Honestly, if Audi had used the MEB platform from ID7 for A6 E-Tron, it actually would have been fine. That's how good the ID7 is.
And to save money, yeah.
Well, yeah, sure, absolutely. But the A6, since I've driven the Macan and you've driven Q6, this is a really high quality platform. This is, they're not messing around. This is fast charging. This is long distance capable. This is a stiff chassis, really sporty dynamics. It's going to give the A6 a character like it's never had before. Even the RS6, which I've spent quite a bit of time in, the current generation, is big and floaty and lazy. And this is going to feel way sportier. And that I'm excited about. 2 different suspensions on offer, but the US may only get air suspension. And so I'm glad they went this direction. It's certainly going to be a high quality product. But Jordan, we keep talking about how good the charging is, but I just have to complain for a second. This is a problem on all PPE vehicles. So Macan, Q6, and A6. The onboard charger's only 40 amps in the US.
Yeah.
What's up with that?
I don't know. I don't understand it. And I mean, I guess that's still fine for most people's overnight charging, especially with how efficient this is. But it doesn't seem as forward thinking as the DC fast charging capability.
And so they claim in Europe it's only 11 kilowatt charging, which is crazy. Right. And so I think they have a supplier issue where their 22 kilowatt and 80 amp onboard chargers aren't ready. But that seems like a huge miss for a premium product where, ideally you want users AC charging most of the time. Not only is it better for the car, but it's better for our time. If I can plug in at home or plug in at the shop, especially in Europe, there's 22 kilowatt AC charging everywhere. And I think we can all agree this car is going to be much more popular in Europe than it is going to be in the US. Yeah. And the fact that it's limited to 11 kilowatts in that market and like 9.6 in our market, that's not enough. That's over 12 hours of charging at maximum AC 0 to full, which, I think anything in that 100 kilowatt hour range, if it's a premium product, needs 80 amp charging.
And their official terminology is 22 kilowatt planned in life cycle. So coming eventually.
Facelift?
I don't know. That's kind of how I'm reading into it, because why would they sneak it in before the facelift? I mean, they could, I guess. Who knows who's in charge of whatever they're doing? But and I guess, wait, did you already say that there's going to be a smaller battery only for Europe?
I have not mentioned, but is it confirmed it's only for Europe?
Not confirmed only for Europe. I guess it could be Europe, but I think in the Q6, I'm pretty sure they said that was only Europe. So I'm guessing that's going to be the same for this one. No one in the US.
We don't want small batteries.
Everyone in the US is like, give me the biggest thing you could. Like, they'd put 240 kilowatt hours in it, and the US be like, yeah, I could. Which is funny, though, because over in Europe, we're actually going to see these towing. Like, when me and you go over there next time, they're going to be towing 6,000 pound trailers all over the place.
I mean, A6 that's the default tow vehicle in Europe. Yeah, an A6 Avant black. It's a company car, so who gives a crap about it? Slap the biggest boat you can on the back and head to Switzerland. That's what everyone does.
For a whole month in the summer. So for those wondering, like, over in the US here, we have the RS6, not E-Tron, RS6, spicy sport wagon. Is that going to be an electrified variant in the future? And will that be in the US? Like, it feels like it'd be heinous for them to cut fun, sporty wagons in the US, even though they don't bring hardly any over here. Like,
yes, I think so. I think we're learning that the case for electric performance cars is pretty small. Even like Mate Rimac was like, no one's buying our cars because everyone wants combustion, enthusiast cars. Yeah. I don't personally feel that way. I'd like to see what electric can be showcased of. I hope there's enough of a market for a spicy RS6 variant of this car. We haven't even seen other than RS e-tron GT, what an RS electric would look like. And again, that car was really just Taycan copy pasted over. Yeah. Don't know. But I hope they do something interesting. It's going to be some time though. And Jordan, I don't know. I already think you and I know this car is not going to sell well. But the thing is, the people who do buy it are going to love it, because this is going to be potentially one of the best, other than Taycan. I mean, let's just say under $100,000, this might be the best road tripping car, assuming the charging infrastructure can power the vehicle properly. So it has a couple benefits I want to mention. It has one of the best route planning systems ever. Same route planning system in Q6 and in Macan. And so I did like a 2,400 kilometer sort of route plan to Lisbon, which is always when I'm in Germany and I'm testing route planners. That's my default location. And in about 5 to 8 seconds, it had it completely mapped perfectly with high power charging. And you can even set your arrival to a charging station down to 2%, which is amazing. So you can go full out of spec style. So not only will you be able to get to charging stations at very low state of charge, it will automatically precondition and prep the car ahead of time, and it supports multi-contract plug and charge. So you can have, a plug and charge contract for your work charging and for Ionity or, Electrify America and EVgo once EVgo supports ISO 15118. So it's really well sorted from the road tripping standpoint. And I think all of those benefits come from the Porsche guys, because one thing we've known about Porsche EVs is long distance fast traveling. That has been a key metric for Taycan, for Macan. And I think just the fact that Audi's using that platform means that you get, honestly, the insane road tripping speeds of Macan now into a vehicle that's much more aerodynamic, much longer range. And it's going to be an absolute monster on a road trip. I mean, this should be faster on a road trip than the current Taycan by like quite a bit. Right. I mean, maybe the previous gen Taycan, not the new one.
Yeah, right. And to many people's points about the Taycan, or a complaint that some people have, is, oh, it doesn't have enough space for all my things. This should beat the Taycan in luggage capacity. And even though it may not quite hold a candle to the newest Taycan, it still is, like you said, comparable to the outgoing in terms of peak charging and the curve and everything. It should be fantastic. But then again, with the pricing, I would just get a Macan EV with that storage capacity.
It depends on how they price it for the US. And we have some time. And honestly, I don't think we're going to hear a single story about it getting here quicker. I think that we're only going to maybe hear some delays. But a lot of people aren't going to road trip this car. So just in a daily setting, getting in and out of the car was nice. Soft closed doors, seats were really comfortable. The Avant had plenty of rear space. The Sportback was a little limited in the headroom, but had good knee room. And overall, it's a mid-sized car. I mean, this isn't a Lucid Air on the inside by any stretch of the imagination, but it certainly felt premium. It felt big enough. And I really had no major complaints other than the gauge cluster being a bit ugly. Yeah. I prefer round gauges, and it's not possible in this. I talked to their designers. I'm like, why do you have these stupid gauges like BMW that go up? It doesn't work for me. And they're like, well, we don't design cars for you, Kyle. And I'm like, oh, it shows.
Yeah. I mean, the most of the displays are pretty good. They're proud of their OLED technology in their displays, as well as the lighting. So like you said, lighting and displays, it seems like, is pretty good. But I kind of agree that the software is interesting, and a lot can come with over the air functionality. I'm guessing this has full capability of over the air. But as long as we get a car first, then we can maybe test that. But in the meantime, I think it would be fun to take one on a road trip in Europe, because we could probably get that done way faster. And it'd even be interesting to map a comparable distance. Like, what's the distance for race to Vegas, but then like do that in Europe. But I don't know. There's a lot of intriguing things about this car. I'd love to try it out. I was, like you said, a huge fan of the ID7. I'm sad that that's not coming yet, because even though I don't think it'd sell well, I would be excited to see it on the road. Kind of like right now when I see an Arteon, I'm like, oh, nice. You're one of the 12 people that bought it last quarter. And
you're one of the 12 people that heard about that car.
Right. So even if this sells almost none, I'll be so excited when I do, see one on the road. And we know they've been doing some testing with prototypes out here in Colorado. We've seen lots of camo stuff, but that's pretty normal. It's still going to be a while before we actually see a real one.
So, I'm just thinking, like, as much of every car is a compromise, of course, but the A6, the i5, the EQE, these are cars that kind of need to do everything for people, especially those that really do distance. I mean, this is a car that is built for spending a lot of time in it, because the seats are so comfortable, with the massage options, with a phone as a key as well, just getting in and out of it often. There's a lot of really nice tech. 830 watt Bang & Olufsen sound system, which I'm sure is going to sound great, because Audi always does great sound systems in their cars. I own an E-Tron. For those of you who don't know, I'm an Audi I wouldn't say enthusiast, but I'm a fan of the brand. Like, I really want to see them do well. And I'm just thinking, if I wasn't a YouTuber, but I've always been, even before I became a YouTuber, I've always loved road tripping. I've always loved doing big distance. I've always had places to go. And if I just had a normal job and needed a car, for me personally, this would actually be very high on the list. I would be, if I was a little bit more budget constrained, I'd be looking ID7. If I wasn't, I'd be looking at this, especially if it was a wagon. But, even the lift back is cool, because you can fit a lot of space in there. A dog can go in the back. There's great app connectivity now. They've redone the whole mobile interface. The charging performance is exciting. The styling is, to me, unoffensive. I don't love it, but I don't hate it. I think they actually kind of nailed it, which is, it just needs to be fine. It just needs to not be exciting. It's an A6. And it just, from my perspective, what Audi does really well inside Volkswagen Group is a very high quality driving experience, very quiet driving experience. And that's what I value in a car that I'm going to do a lot of distances. So if you were actually to make a car for Kyle Connor, the non-YouTuber, just me in general, I have a Model S. I don't really make many videos with my Model S, but I bought it as like my car. This would actually be a great Model S replacement for me because it's going to be higher quality, going to have good driver assistance. It's going to have a much better ride. I'm sure it wouldn't take much than my Model S. Jordan, you and I both agree the Model S does not drive great. It's very fast in a straight line, but it's loud. I don't know. The whole car just doesn't feel really well sorted, where I think this will, based off my time with Macan.
Yeah, Audi knows build quality. They know quality control. And a lot of people will make the case, like, why would you buy this over a Model S? And while there's a lot of people, I mean, if you've been on Twitter at all, there's a lot of people who want an EV who would never even touch Tesla with a 10-foot pole. So there's definitely a crowd for it. And I'm excited and curious to see who actually bites this bullet, granted, if it ever comes. I mean, when me and Tom were reviewing the ID7, it was kind of interesting because it was like, well, if they do come out with the Audi sedan, like, is this encroaching on that too much? Because the ID7 was just so nicer than we thought. We kept feeling Audi-esque. Of course, Volkswagen infotainment and the design and styling, but like, it felt like how this is kind of being described. And the Arteon was some of that same situation back in its day, and even the Phaeton, where it's like, okay, where is Volkswagen compared to Audi? Because Audi is supposed to be the premium version, and Volkswagen's like getting more premium. So I don't know if both those cars come, why would someone spend a little bit extra, or how much extra will it be? I mean, how expensive will ID7 be? There's so many questions left.
Yeah, but I think the Audi's a whole nother level above the ID7. I think it's like, if you can afford the A6, you go A6.
Right.
Because just the charging performance alone, at least to me, like I said, these are not city cars. These are not cars just to putter around to work and back. These are cars that you're buying to do the big road trips in. You're buying the more efficient car to go longer distance and to get that really fast traveling. Otherwise, honestly, the Q6 e-tron's probably a better daily. It's a little bit taller. You're going to have better visibility. I don't know. But this is a whole nother level above ID7, just in build quality, in terms of materials and that platform.
Engineering.
PPE is a whole nother level above MEB.
Yeah, exactly. And if you're a realtor, I mean, you wouldn't want to be seen in a Volkswagen when you could be seen in an Audi. So
the cool thing is, if they do come here and don't sell that well, the lease deals on these, this might actually be awesome. So that could be interesting. I think, just to wrap it up, the A6 is, like I mentioned, the quintessential Audi. I did a full tour with all the nerd details. We go through the range, the charging, the infotainment, every menu. Audi tried to have some fun with this. You can have YouTube on the screen. You can play games with the paddle shifters that control the regen through like the head-up display. Like, it's got some fun stuff in there. But ultimately, this is a serious car. It's a business class car. It is going to be a very popular company car for mid-level management to executives, depending on the type of company that you're at. In Europe, that's why the A6 Avant is truly one of the most popular roads that you see currently on the road in Germany. This is going to have a huge sales potential in their local market. I'm not sure how well it's going to do in China. I'm not sure how well it's going to do in the US. It's a car Audi needs to make. And I'm really glad that I had the opportunity to check it out. I cannot wait to take it on a trip. This is definitely a car that is a cannonball contender. It's a race to Vegas contender. Like, this is right up our alley, Jordan. It's just, most people will go Q6 e-tron, and there's almost no downside to going Q6 e-tron. If the range isn't really an issue for you, then you get bigger space, SUV. That's why the whole market's going SUV style. Now that you've seen both, which would you go for?
I don't really need the capacity of an SUV. So I probably would lean towards this, especially with the liftback. That's what makes the difference for me. I don't have any interest in sedans just in general, but the liftback functionality that adds like, oh, easier access for storage, car camping, like whatever else you can care about. So I would probably lean towards a sedan, and maybe I've been hanging around our friend Andreas too long because he's like obsessed with range, and so I'm like, why would I pick the Q6 when this has a much more slippery 0.21 drag coefficient?
So, well, that's only for the Euro car, keep in mind, because we won't get the digital mirrors.
Right. We'll be close to that. But yeah, you're right. The mirrors will be adding precious miles of range. So
yeah. So the official language is the release below quotes a coefficient of drag of just 0.21 CD. But keep in mind, you have to multiply that times frontal area. CD is not the full story, but they're all similar frontal areas. And it says this is a European figure based off of a specific wheel offering and use of virtual exterior mirrors not available in the US market. So that tells me that we will not get the wheels or the mirrors, which honestly is fine. Big wheels look great. It charges so fast. Who cares? And I'm just the available colors, Jordan. Should we just run through them? Because it's the most Audi list of colors I've ever seen.
Well, and I misspoke earlier. I said like 16. I think there's actually like 7 because each trim gets its own variation of color offerings. But yeah, there's a couple blues, a couple grays, white, black, and a cyan beige metallic. That's probably the one I would go for.
Yeah, well, that's the launch color. I think it looks cool. They had that in a lot of Audis over the years. I think it's great. It's like a sand color, but it's literally beige, gray, black, white, and blue.
But it's a nice deep blue, really similar to the blue that I had on the ID4 I was testing, or ID7. The nomenclature over there. 7 versus 6. But pick a color, I guess. But a nice red would be cool, a nice green, but they're just not going that direction, which is, I guess that's why you could go get your Macan EV, paint to sample, and be happy that way.
Yeah, I just think they really, for our market, have to be careful with the price, because as soon as they start encroaching on Macan, I know we're comparing a sedan to an SUV, but you're talking Porsche badge, Audi badge. There's a big difference there. Damn. But dude, I gotta say, I actually think it looks great. I think that the specs are amazing. PPE is very promising.
Yep.
In terms of its capabilities. The charging is monstrous. That's really great. I'm so happy we are getting the full charging performance. And it wasn't like Porsche got the fast charging and Audi had a nerfed version, which, speaking to a lot of engineers early on, Audi was going to do a nerfed version of this. Like Q6 and A6 were going to be limited on charging. And the Porsche guys were like, guys, you have to unlock it. Like, give the package is there. They were even thinking about doing a charged extra for DC fast charging. Like no mechanical change, just to have like an optional, do you want faster charging? And it just shows that like a lot of the Audi product planning guys or whatever just don't get electric. And so the Porsche guys were like, here's what you have to do. Just full rip on charging. And they were like, okay, but that apparently was a last minute decision, is my understanding.
Makes sense. Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, is that about it? That's all your thoughts?
That's about it. It's an A6. It's probably not exciting to most of our viewers. I'm excited about the car. Watch the full video. And I think like there's definitely a niche of people who like these business class sedans. Like I feel like my dad falls in that category, and like he would love this car. It would be great for him.
Yeah, when it comes to the US, he'll be about 12 more cars deep at that point, and then he'll trade whatever he has for this, and then he'll run it for a couple months, and then we all know what's going to happen with Dave over there. But maybe we'll get his thoughts as well on a podcast at some point. But let us know your thoughts down below in the comments, and of course keep an eye out for the video that Kyle's done on Out of Spec reviews coming out around the same time as this. And a lot of interesting Audi stuff to talk about and eventually get our hands on. Until then, we'll head over to Europe and probably do a road trip over there.
Yeah, honestly, this is one of those cars we're going to go to Europe. We have to test over there well in advance of us getting the cars in the US.
Yep. All right. Well, thanks so much for watching, guys, or listening, and we'll catch you on the next Out of Spec podcast. Cheers.